Welcome, all of you, to our Namaste Sunday Sufi Zoom Zikr, heart opening, awakened, praise, love, whatever you want to call it. Here we are in this moment, and this is the moment. And it's the passion for this moment that allows that light to break through and for heaven to be revealed. And that is our single goal here today, for the light to break through and for heaven to be seen where it has always been, within each one of us, around every one of us, everywhere we look, everywhere. And so I'm so happy you could join us for our session today. I was thinking that our friend Ghassan was going to be able to join us. I haven't seen him yet, but he might be able to pop in a little bit. So if he does, we'll certainly hear from him. But I wanted to begin, because this is a Zoom Zikr, I wanted to begin by singing a little bit with all of you. And we're going to do that with a chant that we've used before. It's a Sufi chant. It means God is love, lover and beloved, God is beauty. We've done this several times, so you should know it by now. The words for the chant are Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Say that with me. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. And then Ya Jamil. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Jamil Allah Jamil. God is beauty. Jamil Allah Jamil. Now, we talked a couple of weeks ago about dancing around the fire, which is really just a metaphor for dancing around the truth, but not diving into the truth, not giving everything to the truth. I just realized my microphone's way over here. You can probably hear me better now. It's a metaphor for dancing around the truth. And dancing around the truth gets us nowhere. Dancing around the fire of God gets us nowhere. We have to dive in. And so that's going to be the other part of this chant. We're going to be singing first. I'll just sing it real quick. Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire when you can just dive in? Sing that with me. Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire when you can just dive in? Just dive in. Then we go to the Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ya you remember. Here it goes. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ya Jamil Allah. Ya Jamil. God is beauty. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Just dive into the fire of God. Just dive into the fire of God. So I want you all to sing this with me, and sing it from the deepest part of your heart, because the door we're speaking of and the light we're speaking of opens and awakens when we give everything, when we're not holding back. So let's not dance around the fire today. Let's dive right in. Here we go. Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire when you can just dive in? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire when you can just dive in? Let's do that again. Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire when you can just dive in? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire when you can just dive in? just dive in. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. God is love. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil. God is beauty. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Really feel that now. Just dive into the fire of God. Just dive into the fire of God. Today is a day for not holding back, so give everything you have to this chant. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Just dive in to the fire of God. Just dive into the fire of God. Let's do it one more time from the beginning. Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire when you can just dive in? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire? Why dance around the fire when you can just dive in? Just dive in. Feel yourself diving now. Ishq-Allah. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil. Lover and beloved is one. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Just dive into the fire of God. Just dive into the fire of God. I'm trying to listen to the other side of the wall to see if I can hear the Namaste community singing. Let me hear it, guys. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil. I think I can hear you. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Just dive into the fire of God. Thank you, Tanya. Just dive into the fire of God. One more time. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Just dive into the fire of God. Just dive into the fire of God. Just dive
That's where we're going to turn to. It's at 33.
The fire of God. The fire of God. Take a deep breath. And just hold still for a moment in that fire. Hold still in that fire. And let the heat of the fire of love begin to build inside you. This is who you are, who you have always been, who you will always be, the fire of God. So when we're called or being called to dive into the fire, we're really being called to dive into the truth of who we are, our holy, perfect, unified self. That's all. To dive into who you are and have always been. And so when we say, Ishq-Allah, God is love, we make this statement that is all-encompassing. Especially the next part. Lover and beloved, both as one. Not separate, not isolated. God is love, lover and beloved. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. And this brings about the most divine sense of beauty that we could ever imagine. Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil. God is beauty. And we see that beauty everywhere. When we choose to realize this oneness, lover and beloved as one. We see beauty everywhere, even in places where a moment before it seemed impossible. Even in places or in relationships or whatever it may be, where a moment before seemed to be only conflict and discord. Suddenly, when we dive into the fire, we see that divine beauty everywhere. This is the key. This is the secret. But to experience that secret, we have to dive in, not hold back, not dance around the fire. Once again, we are called to dive into the very center of this truth, the very center of this experience. And so this chant, Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah, it takes us to the deepest part of this experience in this reality. So thank you for sharing that with me. And this morning, I want to talk a little bit about, I think, the initiation point for that experience. How we dive in. It's a realization, actually. It's something that we begin considering with our minds, and then ultimately that idea or concept sinks into our heart. And we begin to feel and to experience the depth of what you're about to hear. And then it becomes a full experience that we extend and share and allow. And the beginning of this statement comes from our dear friend Richard Rohr, who in his Universal Christ book, which if you haven't read is amazing, this is what he says in describing what the Christ is. This is something that Christianity has been trying to do for 2,000 years. Describe somehow, conceptually, what the Christ is. Is Christ really just the last name of Jesus? No. Here's what the Christ is according to Richard Rohr. He said, the Christ is just another name for everything. Everything. This plant, this insect, this person, this animal, whatever it may be, another name for everything. And when we allow it to expand in this way, to include rather than to exclude, because this is all that energy of the Christ, or whatever you want to call it, is. It includes everything. And when it does, it brings us to the second part of this formula. It really is a formula that if we can allow to permeate and to penetrate, it initiates the experience we're seeking. So it begins with Christ is another word for everything, or another name for everything. And then it becomes God is another word for everywhere. Everything and everywhere. Do you see, once again, how inclusive this is? Religion, unfortunately, without exception really, is meant to exclude. It's meant to create concepts that if you're with the in crowd, you understand, you participate in, you're part of. And if you're not, then you're not part of, you're excluded. But the difference between religion And the experience of this, I don't even know what to call it. There are no words. We'll just say the experience. We can call it spirituality. We can call it non-dual spiritual, well, whatever you want to call it. The point is that it includes rather than excludes. It allows every expression to be the Christ, to be God in every moment. You've often heard me say that, especially when people ask me, well, do you believe in God? They're surprised when I say no. I don't believe that there's a God, as most of us were taught in Catholic school or Sunday school or whatever it may be. The idea that there is this God out there, this being who's somehow watching over us and even judging us and deciding whether we're worthy to go up or down in the end. I don't believe in any God like that. But here's what I do believe in. Though I don't believe in a God, what I believe in is only God. Only God. Once again, God is another word for everywhere, just as Christ is another word for everything. It includes everything. And that's why we sing these beautiful chants, because it allows us to enter into the experience of total inclusion. Maybe that's what God is, total inclusion. And diving into the fire is what burns away all of the concepts and all the blocks that keep us from realizing that, from including everything, including everywhere. So coming together, as we do here 6 days a week, is really just the ignition of that experience. We support one another. We join together and ignite that experience. And then we're called, once we turn off the Zoom or once we leave the session room, then we're called to go out and to share and to extend and to bless and to see this everywhere, to make a conscious choice to see this everywhere. As Vicky once said, and as I wrote a song and a whole story in my new book, there is no spot where God is not. It really is that simple. There is no spot where God is not. I can't say God is there or God is there, because I'm immediately wrong, because I've excluded. And once again, if anything, God is the total divine inclusion of everything. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus was once speaking about the kingdom of God. And he said, essentially, as he said over and over, it's within you right now. It's where you are. It's where everything is. He said, if the kingdom were in the sky, the birds would get there before you. If the kingdom of God were in the ocean, the fish would get there before you. Look for it where it really is, within you. And that you are within everything. The kingdom is within you, and you are within everything. It's just another word for everything and another word for everywhere. If we can just keep that in the forefront of our mind, then that experience and that devotion and that love and that awakening happens on its own. It happens on its own. So in a few moments, we're going to do another chant, but I wanted first, let me see, is Ghassan, did he slip in by any chance? Let me take a quick peek. I don't think so. So, Vicky, you certainly are another word for everywhere and everything. So I'd love to hear what you have to share this morning.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. Thanks for the song and the experience. Thank you. Well, what occurred to me, which is rather simple, is that we see what we give. If we give love, we will only see love. Sometimes it seems out of reach for many people, like, oh no, how do you see happiness and God and joy everywhere? Well, if I'm giving it, I have to see it, because I'll only see what I believe in and I see within. And the choice really is a simple switch. It's a mind choice. It starts, like you said, The initiation point is the place where we don't exclude anything, even our own pain, even our brother's pain, the world's pain. We include it. We just don't judge it. We don't change it. We don't try to make of it something else. We simply include it and welcome it and allow it and bless it. We may not know what it means. We may not know what horrible things are happening and they come into our screen, what they mean. But because they come into our screen, it's our opportunity to include them and know that we don't know what to do with them, but bless, give blessing, give blessing, give blessing. And as we give blessing, everything switches in our vision to an experience of love. It's inevitable if we truly give love. If we give fear and if we give withholding, we will see lack and limitation. We will see sickness. If we give love, we will see the wholeness of what is true everywhere, regardless of the overlay. You know, the plastic overlays of time and space, the essence of that is our reality, that is our divinity, is what's underneath that overlay. And we can see it with a simple choice of giving love to everything. It may mean a moment of feeling upset or a pain. In fact, it's the most important initiation point. That's the point where we want to jump in the fire and let it be burned away, so that whatever was giving us pain was a false sense of something, a false sense of ourselves. And when we jump in the fire with it and we just jump into the love of God, let it burn it away without doing anything with it except bringing it in, including it, and welcoming it. What is left is who and what we really are, our essence, our soul, and we give breath to that. And as we give breath to that, we see only that. So that was my thought.
How simple. Are you telling me it really is that simple?
It is. It's hard to do, though. And I do this every day. No kidding. It's really hard.
It is.
But it's simple. And don't complicate it to get away from doing it. Let it be simple and feel uncomfortable as long as it takes.
You know, I was just thinking it's kind of like smoking. I know that may sound strange. Giving up smoking is simple to do if you've only been smoking for one day. It's easy. But if you've been smoking for years, you have a habit. You've reinforced this habit over and over and over. And so breaking that habit, something you've been doing for so long, is very difficult with any habit. And it's the same thing with the habit of excluding, of not loving everything everywhere. I love how you said that giving love to everything is the same way as saying including everything. And you're right, it's so simple, but we've spent so much time, so much energy in not doing that, and for whatever reason, that it's like trying to give up smoking after smoking for 20 or 30 years. You've been doing it for so long, it's so natural. But now we need to create a new natural. And it's a supreme natural. It's the only thing that really is natural to our soul. All conflict comes from doing what is unnatural to our soul. What is unnatural to our soul is excluding or not loving everything everywhere, because it takes us out of alignment with God or the divine or whatever you want to call that. But when we begin by realizing this is simple, and now I'm just going to have some kind of a practice, whatever it may be, chanting, whatever works for you, something that allows you to break the perceptual habit of exclusion and begin to include. And one of the simplest ways is just spend time every day walking around including people, which would be just to say loving them, looking at the homeless person on the street and saying, this is the Christ right now. Or looking at the rich businessman, this is the Christ right now. Literally, not some figurative thing, literally. So let's do something right now that's going to help us to begin to create that habit. We've been chanting that beautiful phrase, God is love, lover and beloved, God is beauty. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah, Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil. So we're going to do it again in a different way. And I want you to make sure that there's some room around you. I'm going to push my computer back so you can see me a little bit better. So we can do the movements. We've done this once before, so this is going to be something that's slightly familiar. And as I always say, allow yourself to dive into this. Don't hold back. Don't worry about if anyone can hear you. Let your voice just resound and make these movements as big as you want. So when we sing Ishq-Allah, we go like this and then bow. Mah-Bud-Allah. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Do that with me. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. And then on Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil, we go like this. Ya Jamil, Allah, Ya Jamil. And then back to Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. So you can just follow me. Oh my goodness, those are beautiful flowers, Vicky. All right. Just follow me if you want. And I'm going to do a screen share so you can see the video. Okay. Here we go. Begin with your hands on your heart and just feel that divine love within. Here we go. God is love.
God is love. God is love. Lover and beloved. God is beauty.
Now don't hold back. Jump into the fire.
Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Allah Ya Jamil.
Give everything.
Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. Allah Ya Jamil. God is love, lover and beloved. God is love,
Take a deep breath. Don't mind the fireworks in the back. It's a time of celebration. Ishq-Allah Mah-Bud-Allah. The Christ, another word for everything, and God, another word for everywhere. It is so simple. So take one more deep breath as we listen to the bells of Ahihik in the background.